Today for diversity, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the worldview. It's important as clinicians that we understand more than anything what a worldview consists of, and more importantly, how we see the world. So, the internal locus of control and the internal locus of responsibility have to do with people uh, and their beliefs, and they attribute their current status and their life conditions to their own unique attributes. In other words, they believe that they have unique attributes that help them control what happens to them and whether they have success or not. So their success is due to their own efforts, and their lack of success is attributed to their own shortcomings or inadequacies. So the worldview includes beliefs and values, and it also includes how people see and experience themselves and others in the world. Beliefs about how the world functions is also a part of worldview. And so today we're going to talk about the locus of control and explain some of that function. There are several types of locus of control, and the locus of control is how people determine what they have control over and what they don't have control over. So we are talking about how do we locate what we can control in the world. So there's several types. We'll talk about first the internal locus of control and the internal locus of responsibility, because part of locating control also is about how you determine what you can be responsible for. Now we go to external locus of control and internal locus of responsibility. And people with this belief accept the dominant culture's definition of self-responsibility, but they have very little real control over how they are defined by others. And I think this is an important thing to know about how people define themselves and how they define whether they can control what goes on around them or what goes on for them. So they have very little real control over how others see them. These people are marginal people. They're marginal individuals, and they also deny that racism even exists. They believe that the plight of their own people is due to laziness or stupidity, and they're clinging to outdated traditions. This is their belief. They reject their own culture and believe that their ethnicity represents a handicap in Western society. There's evidence of racial self-hatred. They accept white social and cultural and institutional standards. They perceive physical features of white men and women as an exemplification of beauty and are powerless to control their sense of self-worth because the approval must come from an external source. They may internalize their impotence, and even though they are aware of the external basis of their situation. So they locate their control externally, but they accept internal responsibility for themselves. The next group is external locus of control and external locus of responsibility. And people with this system may be high in system blame and external controls, and they feel like there's very, very little that they can do in the face of such severe external obstacles such as prejudice and discrimination. They may have even given up, or they are attempting to placate those in power. And as we're going through these, I think it's important to start thinking about where you may fall in terms of how you locate control, how you locate your ability to control what you think, what you experience, how others think about you, and whether you can control your circumstances or not. The slide that we're focusing on now is the internal locus of control and the external locus of responsibility. Now, these individuals believe that they are able to shape events in their own life if given a chance. They do not accept the fact that their present state is due to their own inherent weakness. However, they do realistically perceive that external barriers of discrimination, prejudice, and exploitation block their paths to the successful attainment of goals. And in this sense, they may have a better sense of what they do have control over, because they don't accept responsibility for those things that they can't control. What I think would be important for all of us to do, as I said earlier, is where do you locate yourself? In the world of clinicians, we are going to be working with many different cultures if we're actually lucky enough to be able to do that. And so the important thing is to look at how you locate yourself, where you locate responsibility. Because as you go back and look at what we've just talked about, what you come to understand is that there is a worldview that says that everything that you do, you can control, and it is your responsibility to do that. And that is maybe in Western society the way that we look at clinical work. We are very much located in internal locus of control, internal locus of responsibility. So you want to look at how you see yourself. The second question that you might want to answer, and that might be helpful for you in your clinical work, is what cultures would you say have some of the other worldviews, some of the other things that we talked about, internal locus of control, external locus of responsibility? That, remember, we said was a person who might be marginalized because they don't recognize their own failure to accept themselves and to accept the world as they find themselves in. They think that they can control things about themselves, but they really can't control people's definition of them. So where would you place, and what culture do you think of? Now, I also want you to think about attempting to match the worldview with a culture that you have in your mind that you think might be a good match for it. I think that one of the reasons I'm asking you to do this is because along with worldview, we also have biases and we also have prejudged people. And in doing that, we may have located people in these different categories or different cultures and not even be aware of that. So it's really, I think, important for us to do that.